Hello, HC Nation. This is Zach Edwards with another episode of the Adventure Box podcast. Or maybe I should say, Ni Hai, travelers. Welcome to the Adventure Box podcast, where we turn dusty scrolls into juicy stories and ancient chaos into comedic gold. Okay, so I'm the host, Zach Edwards. Is this brought to you by Historical Conquest? I am a part-time historian, full-time CEO, and full-time fan of sword-swinging, backstabbing, mind-blowing eras in the Chinese history. And today, oh boy, we're diving heads first into one of the most favorite historical, let's just say, train wrecks. Totally awesome. Totally cool. So keep listening. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what is called the spring. Ooh, I like spring. It's really nice, the season. Yes, very nice season. Oh, not that spring? What about autumn? I like autumn. Autumn's really nice. Not a season? Oh, no, it's a period. Oh, the spring and autumn period. This makes up about 700 to 770 to about 476 BC. A time named after a calendar and filled with betrayal, warlords, Confucius-level wisdom, and more plot twists than a soap opera directed by Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu. Oh, amazing person. Learn about him next week. Not this week, next week. Okay, so this episode, we're going to be talking about three things. First, the fall of the Zhou power. A king without power and a land full of nobles, each with their own armies. Not good. Not good at all. Second, the rise of the city-states and early wars, including dramatic alliances, betrayals, and diplomatic disasters. Yeah. And the third one, how somehow during all this chaos, China experienced a cultural and philosophical renaissance, a twist, a turn in events. So buckle up, things are about to get poetic and petty. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's start off before the spring and autumn period. This was the Zhou Dynasty, and we're going to give them a reality check. Okay, so here's the scene. It's about 770 BC. The Western Zhou Dynasty is collapsing like a paper lantern in a thunderstorm. Mushy. Water makes mushy. Okay, so once upon a time, the Zhou king had ruled over a unified land and by a divine authority. You remember? The mandate from heaven. They were like, we're in charge because the cosmos said so. Heaven said so. Or one supreme being said so. But then, while in power, they divided their lands to the nobles. They gave out their land and they said, you must rule these, so we will delegate this land to you, and you will give us back money and power, and we will control all of China, as much as China, the territory that would become China, was being run at this time. So those nobles, so the king and everyone in the royal family, they became lazy and corrupt. The nobles got restless. And in 771 BC, a group of barbarians and rebellious lords sacked the capital. Crushed it. The king was literally killed. Oopsie. So the royal family packed up and moved east to Luoyang. They launched the Eastern Zhou period. But here's the kicker. They still called themselves kings, even though nobody listened to them anymore. It's like being crowned prom king after everyone's left the dance. It's totally worthless. No one listened. What's the point? Instead of a central empire, China split into dozens of semi-independent city-states. All these areas controlling themselves. All ruled by dukes, lords, and assorted, hey, I'm in charge now here, right? Those type of people. So, welcome to the spring and autumn period, named after a chronicle kept by the state of Lu, which describe these chaotic times. They use poetry and underestimated, like, dude, so and so came to visit, and oh, by the way, we got invaded. That's basically what it was. But it was called the spring and autumn period in the poetry. So they call it the spring and autumn period in history. There you go. That's why how it got its name. Okay, so during all this chaos, there's the rise of the city-states. Now, let's meet some of these colorful contenders. We'll call it. All of them wanting to rule everything, but all of them in their own areas. We're talking about hundreds of dukes and kings that no one listened to, minus those in their own city-states. But a few major players stood out. Let's talk about some. So there's the Qi, QI, rich and coastal, basically a financial bros of ancient China. Yeah, the financial bros of ancient China. Then there's the Jin. Now the Jin were massive military force and ready to throw hands and throw down with any other region. What about the Chu? They were in the south. I got a picture. I got a map. Here we go. So, in the coastal, you have the Qi, the QI, Qi, over here. Then you had the Jin, which was more centralized, and that was a massive military force. The Chu was down south, southern, exotic, and fond of mystical rituals. So they went way deep, way off the deep end when it came to our faith, our belief of one God. Now they're talking about polytheism. Oh, that's a big change. But up to the queen. So the queen is a small now, but just wait. They'll become very important later on. So remember that name, Qin. Then we have the Lu. Lu, great, modest, peaceful, and home to the nerds, like Confucius. We'll get to him in just a little bit. Actually, we will push him off. I'll tell you a little bit today, but mostly on Wednesday. Okay, so with the Zhou king reduced to ceremonies only, like ribbon cutting and things like that, these states they act like teenagers whose parents left them for the weekend. They formed alliances and broke them. They fought each other. They hold elaborate diplomatic dinners and then poison the soups. Yeah, that's total classic stuff. They poisoned the soup of the people that were there for dinner. I don't know why anyone trusted anyone at that point. This period saw over 480 wars. But you think that was bad? Just wait till we get to the warring period. So much worse. Bad blood at that point. So some cities changed hands multiple times per year. The military arms raised up, moved in, took over, and within about a month, another army would come and take them over again. So estates started building walls. They were professionalizing their army. They ditched the noble. Well, many of the nobles. But they ditched the archers for the foot soldiers. And now, here's the great one. They went into iron weapons. This is the start of using iron weapons. Swords, spears, made of iron, not rock, not bronze. Also, war chariots. Nothing says civilized diplomacy like a noble family rolling up in a 2-horse murder-mobile. That's what it was. Come through with the chariots, killing people left and right. Not good. It was not a good time. So, let's talk about the art of rule and the rise of strategy. Now, despite the constant warfare, or maybe because of it, states needed smarter ways to govern. They began creating what they call ministries. They were like the ministries of agriculture, ministries of military, ministries of justice. They were bureaucrats. That's right. The ancient Chinese had bureaucrats like DC. It's true. DC is so full of bureaucrats. Holy cow. You throw a rock, you hit a bureaucrat. You throw another rock, another direction, you hit another bureaucrat. The same thing in China during this time. And advisors, strategists, they became very valuable, just as valuable as the generals. So think of it as the birth of the ancient HR department. You know what HR is? Human resources. That's right. So this was like, think of DC, Department of Agriculture, Department of Military, Department of Justice, and all these people work in those offices, but with more decapitations, maybe? It's true. You cross the warlord leader and they cut your head off. Sorry, it's true. And now let's not forget the role of the rituals and the etiquette. Now, everything was about rituals and etiquette in the town. You leave the town, oh, it was about stabbing people and killing, and no good, not good stuff. Okay. So diplomats would bow, exchange gifts, quote poetry, but then stab each other in the back. But among this madness, certain leaders stood out. I'll tell you about a few. Now you need to remember these. These are very important people. Not for a test, but interesting. They might be somewhere else, such as, a deck of cards? So Duke Huan of Qi, who united multiple states under his leadership. Briefly, his advisor was Guan Zhong. Now, he was a reform genius, very respectful. He basically invented tax reform and political meritocracy, meaning you get somewhere because you were good and did things that were noteworthy before it was cool. And King Zhuang of the Chu, another great person to understand, to know about him, studied him. He famously asked in his court, is it better to have a strong army or a wise minister? Spoiler, he picked both. The spring and autumn period was the testing ground for ideas, political, philosophical, and military. That would shape China's civilizations. Now, again, it's not China at the time, it's territories, just areas, provinces, you could say. Let's talk very, very quickly about someone very important named Confucius. Sometimes he is confusing. Now, let's talk about him as he really was. His name actually was Kong Fuzi. Kong Fuzi. Wait a second. That sounds like confusing. Confusing. Kung Fuzi is confusing. Also, aka Confucius. He was born in 551 BC in a tiny state called Lu. Yeah, remember Lu? I told you, very important. Right in the middle of all this mess, where China is blowing up. Chaos everywhere. Confucius was like, hey guys, maybe we should stop killing each other and start respecting our elders, honoring tradition, and behaving like decent human beings. And China was like, cool idea, but war first. Still, his teachings caught on. Even the warlords clashed. Even as they were clashing, Confucianism, Taoism, and early legalism were formed like philosophical Pokemon into chaos. That's what makes this period so wild. Massive political instability, but also a cultural golden age. Music, bronze casting, poetry, statecrafts all flourished. It's like everyone was burning their neighbors' fields by day and writing symphonies by candlelight at night. What in the world were they doing? I do not know. But what I do know is that this was a time of a lot of change. Much, much, much change. And even though it was a time of much chaos, it was a time for people to really start to formulate what they want. So all the provinces had their own way of ruling over their areas. So, let's give it modern day. Let's think United States. Big, proud country. All different states. Right now, you have blue states, Democrats, and red states, Republicans. And you have purple states, a mixture of both. So you have the blue states, they don't like the red states as much. And so they're always competing against each other. So, do they stab each other in the back? Well, politically, maybe. But not with swords, not with iron weapons. No, they do other things to stab each other in the back. Sometimes it happens in their centralized government in D.C., where there's, remember, all the bureaucrats. I want to go to D.C. I'm coming from China. I want to go to D.C. and I want to throw a rock. I want to hit some bureaucrats. I want to see if it's actually real. Bureaucrat there. Hit them all. Okay. So today we're talking about the spring and autumn period, really? Right? Okay. This is a time. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to give you a little bit of insight of what we were talking about. Oh, wait a second. I should go back to my example, right? Okay. So the states. Every state has its own way of living. But the difference is that the United States has a central government. China, they had one. But then they sacked the capital, killed the king, and pushed the royal family out. So think of China, ancient China, during the spring and autumn period. That's what this was. That's like the United States. If the central government went away, it would be chaos. Every state trying to get the best of the others. Which is why the central government is a way of keeping them all together, right? It's like Europe. Let's go with Europe. Okay, that's a great one. Okay, so Europe, great civilized area, right? Yes, except that before they had the EU, they were competing against each other. And they had diplomacy between each other. Now, you might not know this, but the EU controls them all. It's like Lord of the Rings, where they have one ring to rule them all. And all those countries who were independent, they don't like that. They don't like that the EU is controlling them. That's why the UK left. EU, UK being like Ireland and Scotland and England and Wales and all those. The British, what used to be the British, they left the EU because they were being controlled by the EU. EU has some very weird concepts. Actually, much like China today. In China today, we control what people say. In the EU, they control what people say. Hey, look at that. The EU is China. Okay, there we go. Independent nations. But the difference is they're controlled by a central... That's China today, not China in the past. The EU is China today. Communism. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. Except we've got a lot more capitalism, while the United States has gone the other way and gone away from capitalism for many years. But now it seems like they're coming back. Hopefully. Okay, enough of my rant. Now, let me wrap up what we were saying. Okay, so China is now separated in all these different provinces who are all controlling their own areas. But there's not much diplomacy there. They're going in and they're stabbing each other in the back, making promises and breaking them, making alliances and then aligning with the enemy and attacking the person you aligned with. It was a horrible time. Not the place I want to go. Okay, so here we go. Let's recap. Let's do the final recap. So this was the spring and autumn period. I'm going to get that wrong again. Probably. Okay. This is the time when China fractured and the Zhou king lost control. And he had to run off to a new area. Oh, the king died, but his family had to run off and started becoming kings in another area. They were also considered a city-state when they went to the east. Well, when they went to the east, all the noblemen started to raise up their own city-states. And some were noble city-states, some were savage, and the rest were backstabbers. So a time when philosophy boomed like lotus flower, just like, oof, opens up. We have a Confucius, we have Taoism, and we have just the start of legalism. We will talk about that on Wednesday. Okay, so these philosophies started to bloom. It was a time that laid the groundwork for also the warring state period. The warring state period. Like spring and autumn had 480 battles, wars. How many does the warring state period have? it's going to get a lot more messy, but we will talk about that next week. Thursday, we will be talking about China with Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. So, I hope you enjoyed all this fun chaos, right? Yes, if you enjoyed this, please come back on Thursday and know more about these different religions of Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. Now, all this was basically proof that collapse can spark creativity and instability can inspire reform, which is what will actually happen, which happens to what brings on Confucius and Taoism and legalism and other isms. And that you'll learn on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.